No, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy, you got a lot of things going on, which we'll kind of dig into in a moment. So yeah, for those of you that are on already, if you do have any questions, just type them in as we go along, and any kind of breaks in between subjects, we'll come back to that and we'll get Leon in. Okay, Leon's going to be here until for about 30 minutes or so. So yeah, we'll try and get everything in that time. So yeah, if Leon, if you could just give a bit of a introduction to yourself, what you've been through, and we'll kind of go through your career, go through the football journey, the boxing journey, the mentor journey. But yeah, if you could just give us a bit of an intro to yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Leon McKenzie. I'm a former Premier League footballer and also former professional boxer. Played just under 400 games, or made league appearances, just under 400 league appearances, scored over 100 goals, played in every league, scored in every league. Retired from football around about 33 years old. Had about a year and a bit of not really kind of not knowing what to do next, and it was a little bit dark around those times in terms of the transition stages. And obviously, with boxing being in my family DNA, that was the next path that I took after my football career and went into professional boxing at the age of 35 years old, and went on to fight for another 4 years or so, fighting for English Southern area titles and winning an international masters title. So retired at 39 years old within the boxing, and then kind of just found myself doing a lot more speaking all over the sort of world, really, in terms of mental health, and really sort of locked into the mentoring area where I could current sort of I feel like to give back my experiences, and just it was just like calling me a passion wise, and now I'm currently at university studying to become a therapist, just to add to everything else in my chaotic life, shall I say. But you know what, it's I've walked many paths, and yeah, I feel like sometimes when you go through massive achievements to hardship, I think it really does play dividend to what your life is going to sort of map out to. Is this all about the journey for me? And that's what I talk to the boys about now. It's all about the journey and how you sort of try and understand the choices that you make, and sometimes they won't always make sense. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at today.
Brilliant. Yeah, obviously I've seen quite a bit about your story, and I know you've done quite a few interviews. And but let's start right from the beginning. So on this chat today, we'll have quite a few coaches, quite a few players who are looking to make it pro.
Mm.
So what was like the challenges for you as a youth player? I know you made your debut for Palace at 17 years old, so quite early,
Mm.
scoring in that debut as well. What was the challenges on the way to that, to get into that first team at such a young age?
The challenges for me were coming to Crystal Palace with talent, but not actually realizing what it was all about, the whole industry. So back then it would have been around sort of 93, 94 time, probably more 94 free youth team, 92, 93 youth team. I was, I played for my district, played for my schools, I was playing Sunday league at the time, around about sort of, 13, 14 years old. And I finally got spotted by Crystal Palace. And when I first came to the club, I had talent, but I would probably say, to be honest, I was a little bit behind with the, how to. No one ever taught me how to hold up a ball. Never really showed me how to, from a professional point of view, how to do certain things. Just learning the game. So I really had to learn in such a fast track way. Sometimes I surprised myself of how I did it, but I was a little bit behind the strikers at the time. When in my first year as a scholarship, as what they would call it now, um, I wasn't really playing, I needed to work on a lot more things in terms of my game, and I was just very determined to understand the process, but I didn't sort of beat myself up in the process. And I kind of understood, okay, this is my first year. Let me watch and observe. I used to really study, watch the first team players, watched how they played, watched how the strikers played in the first team. Took bits from certain players, whether that be Dougie Friedman, Bruce Dyer. There were certain things that I'd taken and kind of molded them into myself in terms of learning how to, hold up a ball, be stronger in certain elements of my game, and it just kind of became me. In my second year, with I'd say sheer determination and just constantly practicing every day, hitting the ball against the wall, working on my touch, just working, just tirelessly working to be the best me, and that kind of paid off in the end, because my second year as a scholarship, I was probably one of the leading goal scorers in England, competing with the likes of Michael Owen, Jason Ewell, Carl Court at the time. And I was scoring pretty much every week at youth team level, and that wasn't just by a chance. That was because I knew the work I'd put into that specific area in working on my game, but also understood the process that I was in. And then obviously I went into, I got pulled off one youth team game by Steve Coppell and Ron Rhodes at the time, bless him, and I scored a hat trick, I think, before half time. They brought me off and they kind of just said, look, you're going to be playing in the first team on this coming Tuesday in the Coca-Cola Cup at the time. So again, in a total shock, but I truly, truly believe in affirmations and visualizations, and that is what I totally done since I was watching Mark Bright and Ian Wright at Sellers Park. And I remember this because I was still at school, and there was no stands then. It was just like you just had to stand up and watch it at Holmesdale End. And I literally was just like watching, thinking, oh my gosh, like I want to do this. I really want to do this. Like I love the way Wrighty's was so, his character was brilliant. Celebrations, I loved the way he scored goals. I just loved what he's about. I just liked the way it worked. And I just visualized strongly. And I actually, funny enough, saw myself scoring myself. I kid you not, I saw myself scoring myself. And then several years later, make my debut, and it was a very similar goal to how I did visioned it anyway. Got mad of the match, and then obviously became a professional footballer the next day.
Unreal. I mean, it's so rare, even back then for 17-year-old to get called up when it was a game that's probably more physical as well.
Yeah.
But like on that visualization side of things, it might sound strange, but maybe somebody hasn't visualized before. Like, what do you do? When do you do it? Is it just before the game? Is it a day before? Is it every day?
I would say for that, it's a period of time. It's not just that you just have one dream and then it goes. Like I was constantly going to bed with it. I was constantly. You got to look at the stages, right? So when I first went to Crystal Palace, I wasn't the best striker. I wasn't the best. But my mindset is, how can I be the best me? And what have I got to do to make this happen? That's where I asked the right questions. I asked Steve Coppell at the time, who was first team manager, what do I need to work on? And he basically just said, listen, like what I used to tell Ian Wright is what I'm going to tell you. And I told him to work on his touch, work on this, work on that, work on all these different attributes. And I totally applied that. So there was a point of listening. I had to listen to try and be the best I could be. And when you look at the fundamentals of it, I wasn't the best when I first come to Crystal Palace. So for me to end up being one of the top strikers in my second year as a scholarship, and then breaking through so much that it gave me an opportunity to get my first team start in the first team and playing in the first team. And it was only a few years prior to that I was thinking about, I want to do this. If anyone doesn't understand visualizations, I was just in a constant habit of understanding what I wanted to do at the time, and the realization of that was just constantly giving it my all. Ask anyone that played with me, that was around me, that in terms of like what I'm giving back, how I play in life, like I will give my all until I can't give no more, and that's where I was with everything.
Yeah, I think that word habit is a big one, isn't it? You know, it's so easy just to maybe do it once and then never do it again.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to form good habits, right? So one of
yeah,
the key ingredients is to form good habits that will strengthen you as a person and ultimately whatever you're trying to achieve.
yeah, I think that goes with on the pitch and off the pitch as well. So, like you said there, you every day you're practicing your touch, you're just kicking the ball against the wall, practicing your finishing, but then you're also creating the habits off the field as well. What am I thinking about? And I think one leads into the other as well, doesn't it? It's you create a habit in one thing, it then becomes easy to create habits in other things.
That's right. That's right.
So you then went and had well, I don't know if you see it as a setback or not, but how did you see obviously Palace being your boyhood club? Then you went out on loan,
Yeah.
um, probably to get more first team football. Then you got transferred. How did you see that?
So I was 18 years old at the time when I first went on loan to Fulham, actually. And obviously, I'd been at the club, obviously for the short time, but all my life in terms of football. So when I got told that I was the club wanted me to go on loan, I shit myself, to be honest, because it was out of my comfort zone. Felt very nervous, felt very anxious, and I was like, oh, like shit, like what do I do with this? Do you know what I mean? However, I went on loan, and the experience was brilliant because it wasn't a successful loan. And
Okay.
when I say that it wasn't successful, I went there and there was a lot going on at the time, and Ray Wilkins, bless his heart, was the manager at the time, but Kevin Keegan was also around at that time. And as you know, with football, there becomes a lot of politics, and with politics, sometimes that can get in the way with so many things. But as a kid, you don't really understand. You miss out so many parts of the politics and why am I not playing? I've come here on loan and I'm not playing. In my head as a kid, no one no one taught me that. I didn't understand how to cope with that. So we were probably like League Two at the time, but I'm playing in Championship or maybe even the Premier League back then. I can't even remember. But I'm two leagues down, and in my head I'm like, okay, well, I must be going to play and start games because that was the first process of going on loan to get me experience and play games. But when I actually get there, I'm not actually playing. I'm on the bench. So I'm like, why would I be on the bench two leagues down in my head? This is how a kid would think even today now.
Yeah.
Why would I be on the bench two leagues down and I can be on the bench in the first team two leagues up? Please make it make sense. But when you're that age, you don't really ask those types of questions. Your character may kind of go be a little bit more sort of distraught because you don't understand the emotions. So that's why a lot of us can be misread or misinterpreted because actually we just need someone to talk to us and really break it down and understand. But sometimes when there's so much going on in the background, it doesn't always work that way. However, I came back, spoke to Steve Coppell, sat down, said to him, "Oh, I missed you." He started laughing. I said, "Oh, that was very hard for me, Steve. Please don't do that to me again." But yeah, he said, "Listen, he was quite surprised with how it went, and that's what it was." But failing that, it was an experience. I kind of understood the dynamics, and then actually, as another year or so later, I went to Peterborough on loan, which was a whole different situation. And me going to Peterborough on loan, now I'm going to a league that I kind of knew that I was above in levels in training and just the way I was. Just I found it so easy in the League Two at the time, and I was just like, okay, great. But what it did for my confidence and what it did for me as a player, going to Peterborough United after leaving Crystal Palace through politics and new chairmans coming in and new managers coming in, who again, I've been at the club 6 years, and what's beautiful about that is the ones that didn't treat me well, getting me out of Crystal Palace for whatever reason. Later on, after my boxing career had all finished, those two same people, as men, came to me correctly and said, "Really sorry, we made a mistake about you,"
Wow.
and I respected that. Yeah, I respect. And Simon Jordan won't mind me saying who that was, and Alan Smith, but both of them came and apologized to me because I don't think they realised not only could I do it in the Premier League, but I don't think they realised how strong my character was, being that they'd seen me go into another elite career in boxing.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic to know. But that actual loan to Peterborough was, I would say, it put me in a different state, and I became a whole different player. I actually learned how to score goals, and I believed in scoring goals. I didn't really believe so much in scoring goals thereafter my professional debut for Crystal Palace, because although I'd set the bar so high when I was a baby, um, unfortunately, coming off the bench so many times trying to save the game, last 10 minutes here, last 15 minutes here. Yes, it's amazing experience, but the levels are still quite above where I'm trying to learn, and I can't come on. And so I probably had 80 odd appearances just coming on 50. It will go down as 80 odd appearances, 90 odd appearances, but it will go down as like, me full appearances. But really what people will miss is that actually, oh, you only had like 10 minutes there. You only had 15 minutes there, and it builds up. And I think I only got 7 goals in my Palace career. So with the loan move going to Peterborough and then obviously making that a permanent, it was the best thing for my career, because I became a complete player. I became a very good player.
Yeah, I think that's an important lesson in that as well, isn't it? That sometimes you do maybe need to go drop down a level where you're going to get those moments where you can develop as a player.
Yeah,
As opposed, like you said, you're getting those 10 minutes for Palace, but how much are you able to develop in those 10 minutes?
It's hard at that age. It's hard. You can't be. You got the likes of like Tony Adams and Martin Keane at the back, and you're 18
Yeah.
years. It's a lot. So and also there's a lot more development to come from me. There's a lot more developing along the way. But again, I appreciate those moments. Those little pinnacle moments where, yes, like in terms of Crystal Palace, I would have loved to have stayed at my own club and become the complete player there. But sometimes what I've realized is that you have to move on, because that's just the purpose of what it's supposed to be. That is the journey, that sometimes you have to move to understand, actually, this is the best move for me because I'm going to become a better player. But you don't realize that at the time.
No.
You realize quite hard. I felt quite hard done by. I felt quite bitter. Felt quite angry. But I flipped that. So all those emotions, the anger, the frustration, the disappointment on Crystal Palace. How can you do this to me? Why do you treat me like this way? I've always been a very good professional. I've been here since a kid. All these things. But I just flipped it, and I said, "Cool. I will show you what's going on. I'm not giving up."
Yeah, I love that. You're using it to your advantage, those emotions, as opposed to letting yourself become a victim and feeling sorry for yourself. And
which I feel like when I work with the under 18s at Palace now, some of the 16s, some of the 21s, and I really try to engage with them, understanding that mindset.
Yeah.
A lot of the younger generation now is very like, when the chips are down, they are down, and they find it really hard to flip the script. They stop believing in themselves. They stop having that faith if they get dropped from a side of the team. Do you know what I mean? It's like the whole world is crumbling, and then sometimes I just wish I can be like, if you only knew what I've had to go through. even reach Premier League, what I've had to go through. Sometimes it's just like it's so hard to get across, you know.
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on that actually, Leon, because I know obviously, like I said, at Palace and Fulham, you're staying in London and then you're having to move away. So I know we've got some players on here who are playing abroad for the first time.
Yeah.
So, what are the challenges on that? And then we'll go into the times you've got injured as well and how you get over those setbacks.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, obviously, I always salute the ones that move country, because it's such a massive transition and change. So I always feel a little bit of empathy around that, because you're on your own. When I was 18 years old, I had my son. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm a dad. I'm a dad at 18. I've got 5
to
children.
grow up quick.
Do you see what I mean? Like, my son's 27 now. So when I at 18 I had my son, and I was kind of moving very quickly, very probably too quick with life circumstances. And we had to move all about. I moved to Peterborough, I moved to Coventry, I moved to Norwich, I moved to move about a bit, and it can be unsettling, especially if it's not settled football wise. It can be even more unsettling. But I think, if I always say to people, and it's very hard for me to give advice on someone that's leaving the country, because I only left the country once towards the end of my career, and I went to Greece, and I found that very difficult. I was without my family, so I understand the emotions that can come through, the different things that one can go through. Sometimes it can be real lonely, so I understand that part. But if it feels right, if you are giving your best, if it's something that you really want to truly do, and you really want to do this, you'll go and do what you have to do. Everything's everything's temporary for me. Everything's temporary. And that's
goes on to what you said before about it. It's part of the journey.
It's part of the journey, but you've got to understand your journey. You can't, sometimes you'll know when you know. Like, when it's the end, you'll know. When it's not, you'll know. And that is the truth. With injuries, I've had 8 operations, and not to sort of go through them all, but being that I made, I don't know, about 370 odd league appearances, right? And I scored 115 odd so goals, career goals. Half of my career was trying to come back. Half of my career in football was just trying to come back from injuries. I didn't even really take off how I would have loved to have taken off, because unfortunately my body, I had a very serious knee injury at Crystal Palace at 21 years old, and then I was out for a season, give or take nearly 2, and then to come back from that and still get a move to Peterborough, still do the moves and had the moves that I had. I always say, like, and I hold so much passion with it. That's why no one can tell me nothing, because half of my career I came back from injuries that are career threatening. I kept coming back, even still to this day now. I don't know how I've done it. I just don't know how. But there's a resilience nature in there. There's a fighting spirit that I have in there, and I was so determined to give this my all. That's why, when I sit here, I don't sit here to be proud of myself in a arrogant or big-headed way. I sit here being proud of myself because I know the pain, I know the tears, I know the heartbreak that I've had to go through to even get to the level I got to. That's why it's just not. It's just not. When people say, "Oh yeah, Premier League footballer," listen, I shed some tears along the way, and the injuries, like I say, when you break it down, and half of my career really was trying to get back from ruptured Achilles, ruptured thigh, broke both ankles. Do you know what I mean? Like 3 operations on my knee. Like that's 6-7 years gone.
Well, what's the conversation you're having in your head at that point, though, Leon? Like you
At
said,
the time,
you're resilient, you carried on going, but like,
yeah.
what's the conversation that's happening in your head?
I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, so I have lots of conversation with God. I believe that power in terms of I pray a lot. I pray for guidance. I pray when it's not going well. Um, I still lean to Him, so I lean on His understanding, not my own, and understand that in terms of this whole journey, I had to find some kind of strength from somewhere, but it's not always sunshine and rainbows. It's very much you can sometimes go into in life. We all got our, like I said, we've all got our journey, but you can sometimes fall into areas where you might not be able to cope with. Yeah, so every one of us will have triggers. Every one of us will have certain things that will happen in life. Um, and for me, I understood what my character was about very early on, from when I was on trial at Crystal Palace. I was at trial at Crystal Palace for 6 months before I signed that scholarship deal.
6 months.
6 months, longest trial ever. The
Oh, boy.
longest trial ever, right?
Yeah.
But from then, I knew that there was something special about my character. There was something special about my character, because 6 months on trial, just to be given the okay to say, okay, we're going to give you a 2-year apprenticeship at the time. You know what? I was the happiest kid. When I got that, I received that. I was the happiest kid. Happiest. And then, things take off and go where they are. But injuries psychologically damaged me, psychologically put me in a very vulnerable place towards the back end of my career. And that's the God's honest truth. So as much as I say about my resilience and my fight it spirit, after so many injuries and so many comebacks and so many just having to come off the floor and get back up and try and go out there and put on a brave face, there was a point in my life where it got me. And I gave up on life and I gave up on me. Not only to add life circumstances to that, understanding that sport didn't prepare me for divorce. It didn't prepare me for missing my kids. It doesn't prepare you for certain things. You have to go through certain things in life to understand your own heartbreak, your own pain. And what is your character going to do when everything's taken away from you? I felt everything was taken away from me from an identity point of view. Football was deteriorating. I got to a point where, I was probably not going to be able to play for much longer. I didn't cope with that. And I tried to check out a life. That's the real element of it. I tried to check out a life, and thankfully I wasn't successful. So again, coming through that, it gets worse. My football career is now nearly pretty much finished, if not finished. Probably 32 or so at the time, 32, 33 at the time. Going for another divorce. The whole picture is now different. Now I've not got no release. Now I've got no football, right? Now I'm a little bit lost. Mine's starting to break down again. Not doing great. Around the wrong people. One of the most crucial things that we do as humans is that sometimes we can become self-destructive and put ourselves maybe around the round influence. I was around the round influence, making stupid choices, ended up going to prison. Imagine that. I was only playing Premier League a few years prior. Now I'm in a room behind four. I'm in a room with 4 walls, right? So when they shut that cell door, I burst into tears. Not because I felt sorry for myself, but in my head, I'm like, God, like how much more do you want me to actually take right now? This is after I tried to take my life a couple of years prior. So now I'm in the prison cell, but it's a whole different kind of strength. Something happened in there. And the reason I say something happened in there is because I wasn't about to do something stupid or take my life. No. I had to fight it. And when I say something happened in there, my athlete mind kicked in, my character kicked in, my fighter spirit kicked in, and I locked into routine. For one of the couple of days I was in there, first couple of days, got myself a job, cleaning. That means my mind. Okay, I'll be out to sell more because I'm doing things. Then that moved into the kitchen. Then I'm serving food for the inmates, getting myself in the gym. Everything was routine just to get me through. Then I was writing a diary every day. Wrote a diary every day, every single day. What can I do? What's going on? Right. Really weirdly, therapeutic. It was a therapeutic experience, but at the same time, I actually, in that time that I was in there, I went back to childhood. So I went right back to my childhood. I looked into my trauma.
In your journal,
in my journal. So I'm looking into my trauma. I'm looking into, when did things start to go a little bit depressive for me? When my mum and dad split up, saw some horrendous things in terms of, what you shouldn't see as a child. Just so many things that were put in my face that, you just wouldn't really cope with. So all these things, and I just write it, and then I'm interviewing the officers in there. I'm interviewing them, and I'm finding out that Charles Bronson's in prison next door. Do you know what I mean? Like these little things like this. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like is this what's going really happen? So I'm doing all this, and then I kind of write quite a lot because I've had 4.5 months to do it, and I come out. And then obviously I've got a publishing deal, which I wasn't expected. So again, visualization is what I'm saying, like, guys, it's the truth. Because when I came out, I wasn't expecting to be approached by anyone. I came out, got approached by publishers, and then obviously literally wrote my autobiography in 2012, and it's out there. And I was just thinking about becoming a boxer when I was writing it. I was just thinking about, I feel like I'm going to have to jump in the ring. That's where it was in that book. If you ever watch it, My Fight with Life, I feel like I'm gonna have to. I want to try and maybe fight or do something. I don't know. And when I came out, that is when my boxing journey started. Now I have nothing. I don't have no money left. I'm living with my baby sister. My matrimonial home is, my babies are there, but I'm a mess. So I said to my dad, listen. I can't go back to that place I once was. I need to fight.
Your dad was a boxer as well, right?
My dad was a former British European champion. I went to the Olympics in 1976, boxed Sugar Ray Leonard just before the quarterfinals. Oh. And my uncle Duke is a former 3-time world champion. So when I talk about DNA, my DNA is serious. And if you know me, you know that I've knocked out a few players along the way in football. So the reputation is already there, but not a lot of people understand that I'm really a boxer turned footballer. Really, I'm really a boxer turned footballer. So I already knew I could fight, but no one else believed me, Elliot. Everyone thought it's a joke. Everyone's laughing at the time. Cool, no problem. So again, that's the transition. So boxing came into my life at a very good time, but I was a lot more prepared. And whereas football, to answer so many other questions, maybe in football, I wasn't really. You kind of, when you're in it, you kind of think. Even like the kids I see now, they kind of think it's never going to end. You got them where you're like monthly wage coming through, and the more pro contracts you get, hopefully you get enhanced. And I play Premier League, so I understand the money concept of everything. But when that is coming in monthly, you can get lazy on it. You can get lazy on it. And I got real lazy on it until everything come crashing down. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Then to go into boxing, I was just doing little things just doing things. I've done a SIA, my SIA course.
What's a nice SIA course?
SIA. I've done that course. I've done my PT course.
So what's the SIA course, sorry?
Security industry.
Security, okay.
Yeah, security industry. Just because working security, so
I
was just like thinking, okay, what can I do? How can I be productive with just not after boxing finishes, what's next? No, I'm ready. Started studying, started doing, started just thinking of where it was at. But also, I'm a little bit older, a little bit more experienced. But I weren't about to stay as low as I once was. So yeah, it's all about preparation, and that's exactly what I did to identify what was truly going on. And obviously, after boxing, I was more than ready. And then you fall into spots. I fell into this. It was funny that Dougie Freeman got older than me, and he's a director of Crystal Palace Football Club now, and he knew about my character. He knows what I'm about, and he was like, "Look, I want you to come in and help these boys. They're going to relate to you. They're going to understand you. They're going to identify with you in a lot more ways than other coaches can't identify." So, 3 seasons on, absolutely love it. Absolutely passionate about what I do, and for me, it's all about giving back, Elliot. I can't go through all the paths that I've walked, all the experiences that I've gone through. I can't just keep that to myself. I have to show that. I have to educate. I have to show these young ones. We go through life topics. We go. I educate them in a way where they understand what I'm saying, and I keep it 100 with them, and we're just real.
Love it.
And they love it.
I mean, I think there's a lot of lessons in that as well. Like even when things are going against you, you're kind of thinking, okay, what's in my control? What can I do? So, like I said, when you're in prison, right, I'll go get a job, keep myself busy. I'll write a journal. That's what I can do. And then once you come out, I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do these courses.
Exactly. I think one of the main things in when you've played, I played for 18 years at a top level. Yeah, I played for 18 years. So it's like anything, and it's my life. It's become my life. When that stops, it's like when people go into the army and they come out of, traumatic, the stress and the traumatic
PTSD,
events. PTSD. So when they come out, and it's the same principle when imagine doing something you love all your life, and then it just stops. And if you're not prepared for that,
it's your identity, right?
It will completely shake your identity and shake what's going on. And I think that sometimes we get into a pattern of relying on that and understanding what that is. But I always say that there's life. One story ends, another chapter can to begin.
Brilliant.
You know what I mean? So yeah, it's all about believing in that next chapter.
No, thanks for being so open as well. I know it's a big part of what you do now, obviously with the mentoring and the mental health side of things. So I really appreciate you sharing that. It's got a good question actually. So someone said they love both sports. So what's your thoughts on accountability? One being a team sport, other being an individual. So you had a couple of losses in the ring. How do you compare a loss on the ring to on the pitch?
Well, like you say, you've got one that's individual and one as a team, right? So when you're losing as a team, and when you're losing as an individual. When I say that, is that I lost my 2 title fights, English fight, which I should have won, by the way, lost by split decision. But I had to understand the process to that as well. I was 38 years old at the time, having no amateur experience, and now I'm fighting for English title at 38 years old. So my brain was kinder to me because I understood that loss. It wasn't because I wasn't good enough. It was more so the timing, the experience. And in my last fight was for the Southern Area title fight, which again I was winning the fight. But the best thing that probably happened at that particular time was father time. I had nothing left to give in round 9. I had nothing left to give, and the belt went to the man opposite me, and I kind of retired the next day. And I retired the next day because I knew I'd given my all. I'd given everything to another sport. I couldn't give no more because I was
natural to finish at that time. Natural
to finish at that time. Nearly 40 years old. So there is accountability in that, in being true to yourself and knowing like, okay, this is where it's at. Sometimes we're not true to ourselves, and that's why you see so many people go on for too long, and then there can be serious consequences in the long run. So that I would say there's a lot of accountability in how I dealt with those particular losses, but I didn't really feel like they were losses, if that makes sense.
Brilliant. So last couple of questions, Leon. So for what lessons would you have? What lessons did you take from football into boxing?
What lessons did I take? I would say timekeeping. Timekeeping.
Timekeeping.
Yeah. No, I think football molded me into routine. Football molded me into a certain
Yeah.
routine, daily habits, trying to enjoy what I'm doing. Because not every day is the same, but trying to understand the whole journey. But I would say, to be honest, I think my boxing background, watching my dad be a champion, watching my uncle be a champion, the champion mindset was already embedded in me from an early age, probably since the age of 7. So that I kind of understood I wanted to be something, but I didn't know if I was going to do boxing or I didn't know if I was going to do football. And then once the football opportunity locked in, which it did, then I just focused on that. And then
So it actually sounds like you took more from boxing into football as opposed to the
I
other way
would
around.
say so in terms of a spiritual point of view. I would say so from my mindset. Yeah, it was boxing that gave me the spitefulness, that gave me the, intuition,
Yeah.
gave me that anticipation of being everything I could be.
Brilliant. So final question, Leon. So what challenges? Obviously, you work with Crystal Palace's under-18s now as an academy mentor. What challenges do you see in today's youth, and how do you help them with that?
I think the challenges with today's youth is really not understanding the opportunity that they have. I think it's very blinded. The younger generation are a lot more entitled now. They've got so much more than what I had when I was coming through. So I think it's about really understanding, actually, look at everything you have, look what's in front of you, look at all this opportunity. Understand when you're coming in what's really going on. Because you'll know that, because if you really, really want to do this, I'm telling you now, every day will be amazing. But you have to really, really want to do it. And I'm not sure, when it really does get hard, I'm not sure that everyone really, really, really wants to do it. And that's fine. That's okay. It's not for everyone. But you have to understand what's going on and look at the opportunity.
Brilliant. Leon, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Let me just answer one question. I just see.
Yeah, go for it. If you've seen one, go for it.
Ends up in a dark place in the right for a moment.
In the ring, I think you meant to say.
In the ring. Everyone ends up in a dark place in the ring for a moment. What pulled you through in the ring? What pulled me through in the ring? Understanding how I trained, understanding how I prepared, understanding hearing my dad's voice. When you have to understand the sparring and the pre-fight. I'd already gone through a hell of a lot of pain. I'm sparring with world champions. I'm sparring with DeGale, Billy Joe Saunders, Anthony Yard. I'm going all over the country, getting beat up most of the time in sparring. So I was already prepared for what was to be prepared. Do you know what I mean? What was to come. So yeah, I don't think in me, when you've got 2 losses on my record, I didn't really get beat like that. So that's what I would say.
I'm intrigued. You said you heard your dad's voice. What was that voice? Your dad's voice saying?
I always hear my dad's voice when I'm going through.
What's he saying in those moments?
He's like, "Champ, this is it. This is what makes us. Don't give up. Constantly, champ, don't give up."
Brilliant.
All right.
Leon, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I hope that listen, I know, sometimes there's so much I can say and there's so much to say, but I really hope that someone takes something from what I'm saying today. And yeah, listen, whatever it is you're doing, give it your all, give it your best. And you know what? If it's not meant for you, then we move to what is. That's it. That's the process. And even if you're in your lowest moment, which I've totally been, you have to look at where I stand today, being that in 2012, I'm in a bit of a lost situation. So, you think it's over, but really and truly, it's not.
And one thing I particularly took from that, I think, was everything's temporary. Even when you're in those low moments, it feels permanent maybe, but just knowing this too shall pass, this too shall pass, and the good times as well. It's just temporary.
Everything's temporary. Just got to don't give up on yourself, and just keep trying. And I know like life can knock us in. There's so many things that go on. Do you know what I mean? Life and people losing people, and there's a lot going on. But you have to really just keep trying. I always just say, keep trying, keep pushing, and just try and live the moments. Try and live every moment as you can. Opportunity, whatever comes, like live each day as you can, the best you can. Because trust me, I'm 47 next year, and I was like, I only remember when I was like literally just trying to break through. So, it's just understanding, like, just try and live your moments, be with what truly loves you, and what you love back.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Leon. Good luck with your future endeavors as well.
No problem at all. Take care. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you for everyone for joining as well.